This absolutely should not be happening. We pointed our most powerful telescopes into the deep void of space. We simply wanted to confirm our basic models of the structure of the universe. But what we found there is truly shocking. The data we obtained completely shatters our understanding of physical reality. According to all the laws of nature, space ought to be a bustling place. Evolution is not a property unique to our planet. Around us are billions of ancient and stable star systems. Local life has had plenty of time to evolve incredibly. The technologies of advanced civilizations would inevitably leave a powerful mark in space. However, instead of the expected symphony, we detect only a terrifying silence. At first, we attributed this strange paradox to poor technology. Astronomers pleaded with governments to build new, massive arrays of antennas. Today, our radio telescopes possess simply incredible and extraordinary sensitivity. Our scientific equipment operates with frightening and flawless precision. And it is precisely this flawless performance that finally reveals the terrifying truth. The problem lies not at all in the absence of signals as such. We hear the natural background noise of our boundless universe perfectly well. Ancient pulsars and distant quasars sound crystal clear and loud. Cosmic dust and gas do not interfere with natural radio waves at all. Space easily and freely allows chaotic radiation to pass through it. But, as soon as ordered information is involved, everything changes dramatically. Any structured signal seems to dissolve without a trace in the interstellar vacuum. It is as if an invisible barrier instantly absorbs all signs of artificial intelligence. This strange barrier operates with phenomenal selectivity and incredible efficiency. Natural chaos passes freely through this incomprehensible wall. But any attempts at intelligent communication are mercilessly and permanently erased. For a very long time, scientists refused to believe in the reality of such a phenomenon. We double-checked the source code of our search programs hundreds of times. Engineers spent months looking for hardware malfunctions in receivers around the world. But all space observation systems turned out to be absolutely functional and accurate. The technology simply and impartially recorded what was happening around us. We encountered a gigantic filter of a completely unknown physical nature. It seems to be deliberately and methodically purging space of the presence of intelligence. This mechanism works too perfectly to be a simple random process. No physics known to us explains such subtle selective filtering. We do not know of any laws capable of distinguishing chaos from order so clearly. Yet this barrier does its work every second of our time. The reality around us turned out to be completely different from what we had assumed. Space no longer seems like an open ocean for civilizations to navigate freely. It is much more like a collection of tightly sealed solitary confinement cells. Every civilization inevitably finds itself locked inside its own invisible bubble. Breaking out of this strict isolation seems utterly impossible. Our boldest scientific theories are crumbling right before our eyes. We sincerely hoped to find older brothers in reason among the stars. We dreamed of a great galactic exchange of accumulated knowledge and technology. Instead, humanity faces absolute and terrifying loneliness. This global silence is the result of an unknown and insurmountable force. And this force clearly prevents us from communicating with our distant neighbors. Further astronomical observations only exacerbate our already difficult situation. With every new scan of the sky, the situation grows increasingly bleak. We are only beginning to grasp the true scale of this merciless cosmic filter. And this new understanding is causing genuine existential anxiety among all researchers. We are undoubtedly on the threshold of the most terrifying discovery in history. The universe has always seemed to us to be a logical and mathematically predictable system. Stars are born from gas clouds and die in supernova explosions. Planets revolve in precise orbits under the influence of gravity, which we understand. Physicists are certain that the laws of thermodynamics operate exactly the same way everywhere. This order gave us a sense of security and false control. That is precisely why the anomaly we have discovered is causing such intense panic. We are observing regions of space where basic logic breaks down completely. Our instruments are trained on sectors teeming with old, stable stars. Intelligent life at various stages of development simply must exist there. But our screens show only a flat line of dead cosmic noise. At first, it seemed we had simply chosen the wrong frequency range to scan. Scientists decided to check the infrared spectrum around the suspicious star systems. An advanced civilization should be emitting a huge amount of excess heat into space. Giant factories and power plants cannot be completely hidden from telescopes. But thermal sensors detected nothing but the natural cooling of rock. Then we switched to searching for directed optical laser flashes. This is the fastest and most reliable way to transmit data between planets. A powerful laser beam can pierce the darkness for millions of light years. Our satellites closely monitored thousands of stars in search of rhythmic flickers. And once again, we hit a completely silent and impenetrable wall. Here, it is important to understand one frightening and very strange detail. We are not simply unable to see these hypothetical alien civilizations themselves. We see something actively suppressing the very possibility of their detection. Natural light passes through these regions of space without the slightest distortion. But the slightest hint of an artificial spectrum is instantly cut off and disappears. Imagine a giant sieve the size of an entire star system. It easily lets the fine sand of natural cosmic radio waves pass through. But it firmly traps any large stones of organized and complex information. Someone or something has established this strict filtering regime in the universe. We do not see the guardian itself, but we clearly see the result of its work. Physics does not tolerate such selectivity without the intervention of a powerful external force. A dust cloud absorbs any light without distinguishing its original source. A magnetic field deflects all charged particles according to the same rules. But our cosmic filter possesses a frightening resemblance to its own intelligence. It analyzes the passing waves and erases only what carries meaning. Perhaps we were mistaken in our very concept of the development of intelligent life. We have always believed that civilizations strive for constant and unbridled expansion. Our logic dictates the need to colonize new worlds and extract resources. But what if this drive is a fatal mistake on a cosmic scale? What if this filter destroys precisely those who become too loud? These thoughts keep scientists at observatories working under intense pressure. Every new terabyte of data from space is meticulously cleaned of interference. We are trying to find even the tiniest crack in this absolute barrier. We search for a faint echo, a random breakthrough of information through the dense fabric of the filter. But the suppression system operates with flawless and blood-chilling reliability. With each passing day, hope for a simple technical glitch fades. We are forced to admit that we are facing a real and constant physical phenomenon. This filter is not an illusion or a trivial error in complex calculations. It exists, it is actively functioning, and it distorts our view of the world. But the most terrifying thing lies in the true scale of this phenomenon. At first, we thought this anomaly was limited to certain sectors. Astronomers hoped that we were simply looking into a blind spot in the galaxy. We assumed there was some kind of local dense cloud of unusual dark matter. It seemed logical to simply turn our antennas in a completely different direction. Scientists believed that if we changed our viewing angle, the silence would disappear. But new data mercilessly shattered that fragile lifeline of hope. We began systematically scanning the sky section by section, degree by degree. Orbital telescopes peered into the farthest and clearest regions of space. The result turned out to be absolutely identical in every direction, without exception. An invisible barrier surrounds us from every conceivable and inconceivable side. We are at the very center of a perfect sphere of informational vacuum. This overwhelming filter operates not only within the confines of our solar system, it spans the entire Orion Arm and extends far toward the center of the galaxy. No matter where we turn our gaze, we come up against an invisible wall. Outer space seems to be infected by this strange, suppressing anomaly. And here the situation becomes even more grim and frightening. We recently obtained precise spectral images of neighboring large galaxies. Telescopes analyzed the Andromeda Nebula and a distant galactic cluster in Virgo. The distances to these objects are measured in millions of light-years, and there, at a monstrous distance from us, the exact same mechanism is at work. This means that the problem is not a local property of the Milky Way. The filter has a truly universal scale, one that defies human comprehension. It is built into the very fundamental fabric of space and time throughout the entire universe. This is not merely an anomaly, it is a harsh, fundamental rule of our cosmos. The laws of nature here work against the spread of intelligent life. Imagine the sheer amount of energy required to maintain such a comprehensive barrier. Blocking radio signals across a region spanning trillions of cubic light-years would require an incredible amount of power. No civilization is capable of building a machine of such grandiose and absurd dimensions. This phenomenon must be part of the very architecture of the observable universe. Someone literally hard-coded this strict rule into the source code of reality. Every new sector of space we explore yields the same results. We witness mind-boggling collisions of entire galaxies and the birth of quasars. Natural cataclysms of monumental scale are broadcast to us in the highest resolution. But amidst this chaos, there is not a single hint of an ordered structure. The filter lets through the violence of dead matter, but blocks the voice of reason. We are beginning to understand that the Fermi Paradox was merely the tip of the iceberg. The question, "Where is everyone?" no longer seems like just an interesting philosophical puzzle. It has become a harsh physical fact that we can measure with instruments. Everyone is simply not there, because they are physically forbidden from being there. Space actively resists any attempts to break this eternal silence. If this is indeed the case, then our chances of finding neighbors are zero. We can peer into the dark, cold abyss for an eternity. We can build telescopes the size of our own planet, but we will never be able to penetrate this perfect system of cosmic jamming. We are doomed to gaze at the stars and never hear their true voice. It is precisely the scale of this phenomenon that robs scientists of their sleep at night. It is one thing not to find life on neighboring Mars or Venus. It is quite another to discover that the entire universe is a strict quarantine zone. We have encountered a force that dictates its own rules to trillions of worlds, and we don't even understand why it needs to do so. When the scale of the catastrophe became clear, the scientific community began frantically searching for an explanation. Theoretical physicists were the first to enter the fray with their complex mathematical calculations. They attempted to attribute this selective silence to the influence of invisible dark energy. Then came the concept of a natural limit to the development of any communication technology. Perhaps, at a certain stage, all civilizations switch to entirely different principles. They might use neutrino beams or gravitational waves instead of radio. This would logically explain why our old antennas hear nothing. However, the latest gravitational detectors on Earth also detect only the mergers of dead black holes. Gradually, the hypotheses became increasingly alarming and grim. The idea emerged that the universe is simply teeming with hidden predators. Advanced civilizations deliberately maintain radio silence to avoid attracting attention. Only those who can blend perfectly into the natural cosmic background survive. Any loud signal in such a forest is an instant invitation to dinner. But this dark forest theory does not explain the physics of the detected filter itself. After all, predators also need to communicate and coordinate their actions somehow. Furthermore, young and foolish civilizations like ours would inevitably make noise. We should be picking up at least fragments of their death cries. But all we hear is absolutely perfect, almost sterile silence. Soon, a hypothesis emerged regarding a so-called protective quarantine barrier. What if this filter is not a weapon or a natural anomaly? Perhaps it is a protective mechanism created by an incredibly ancient and benevolent race. It isolates young, aggressive civilizations from one another for their own good. By preventing us from meeting, this system prevents large-scale interstellar wars. However, such an explanation seems too human for the ruthless reality of space. The filter does not look like the gentle, caring hand of a wise older brother. It operates coldly, mechanically, and without the slightest trace of selective empathy. It does not care in the slightest what specific information the blocked radio signal carries. It erases both peaceful greetings and potential military threats with equal efficiency. The most radical theory makes many scientists swallow hard. Some physicists have seriously begun discussing the hypothesis of an artificial simulation of our reality. If we live inside a gigantic and ultra-complex computer program, then everything falls into place. The creators of the simulation simply did not program the existence of other intelligent players into the code, and the filter is simply a rendering boundary that saves the server's computational resources. We can see the beautiful textures of distant galaxies in the night sky, but the server doesn't need to calculate the complex life on each of these planets. Therefore, artificial signals from there are simply not generated by the system in the first place. This explains why inanimate matter is clearly visible, while intelligent life is absent. We are in a solitary game where the rest of the world is merely a backdrop. Whichever of these contradictory hypotheses turns out to be true in the end, the essence remains the same. We have encountered a fundamental limitation that cannot simply be ignored. Our model of an open and friendly universe has turned out to be naive and completely wrong. Reality operates according to laws that we are only beginning to realize with horror. We can no longer simply continue peering through telescopes with the same hope as before. Every new scan of the cosmos turns into an attempt to feel the bars of our cage. We seek answers, but find only new layers of impenetrable defense. And the scariest part is that we don't know what comes next. Here is an expanded version of these chapters. I have kept all your conditions. The first and last sentences of the chapters remain unchanged. There are no lists or words in parentheses, and each paragraph contains no more than 6 sentences. The text has been expanded organically, with the addition of scientifically sound theories about the Fermi Paradox and the dark forest hypothesis. All these long years, we've thought only about incoming cosmic messages. We've worried about why we can't hear distant alien worlds. Scientists have built giant radio telescopes and pointed them toward promising star systems. But we completely forgot about another, far more important aspect of this process. Humanity itself has been a source of constant and powerful radio noise for 100 years. And this fact suddenly makes the whole situation incredibly dangerous for us personally. For decades, we have been carelessly broadcasting all sorts of things into space without any control. Our planet glows in the radio spectrum with artificial signals of incredible power. TV towers have been broadcasting news, entertainment shows, and sports matches. Powerful military radars constantly scanned the atmosphere, sending beams of energy toward the stars. We even sent targeted messages, such as the famous Arecibo radio signal. We were shouting our existence into the dark abyss with all our might. This radio bubble has been expanding in all directions at the speed of light for many decades. The edge of our very first transmissions has already reached thousands of nearby stars. We were absolutely certain that some intelligent being would surely notice this unnatural noise. Physics told us that radio waves could travel through the universe almost indefinitely. However, a new, frightening reality has completely overturned these classic calculations. Our signal encounters an insurmountable barrier beyond our understanding. But if this total filter works everywhere, then it works here too. Our radio waves leave Earth's orbit and set off on an endless journey. They fly past the Moon, Mars, and cross the boundary of the solar system. And somewhere out there, in the cold void, they inevitably encounter this barrier. This suppression zone is invisible to optical telescopes, but deadly to data. The invisible wall begins its merciless work of erasing our information. Scientists decided to conduct a very risky but necessary experiment under these conditions. We asked the Voyager probes, located at the edge of our system, to listen to Earth. These spacecraft had traveled incredibly far and had become our only outposts in interstellar space. The probes were supposed to record our radio transmissions and send the data back. The results of this simple test left the research team in a state of deep shock. The signal from Earth reached the probes in an incredibly distorted and mangled form. The filter had already begun to actively affect our own information streams. The structured signal from the planet broke apart, turning into meaningless chaos. Music and human speech merged into ordinary cosmic static. The mathematical logic of the messages was literally collapsing before our eyes as they moved away from the source. Our voice simply dissolved into space, not even managing to leave our home system. An invisible jammer is operating right in our own backyard. This discovery completely changes our place in this grand cosmic drama. We are no longer mere outside observers studying a strange anomaly from afar. We have become direct participants and victims of this incomprehensible physical process. Our home planet is inside the same isolating and impenetrable bubble. No meaningful information can leave the confines of this strange quarantine. And this bubble is slowly but surely silencing everything we try to say. If someone were to look at the solar system through a powerful telescope right now, they would see nothing. To a distant outside observer, our system appears completely dead and uninhabited. The filter reliably hides Earth, absorbing the light from our cities and the artificial radiation from our antennas. The radio signatures of oxygen and water on our planet may also be distorted by this anomaly. We are safely hidden from prying eyes, whether we like it or not. And this robs us of any hope of rescue from outside in the event of a catastrophe. We are locked in our own star system with no right to make a phone call. Any attempt we make to contact the cosmos is doomed to complete and utter failure. No matter how much energy we put into the transmitter, the filter will easily dampen the signal. This is an immutable law of local physics that we are currently unable to circumvent or outsmart. It is like trying to shout beneath the surface of the water during a violent storm. Your voice will never reach the surface and will not be heard by others. The realization of this fact hits the psyche much harder than the silence of the stars itself. It's one thing to understand that your neighbors simply don't want to talk to you. It is quite another to discover that your own door has been welded shut from the outside. We find ourselves in complete isolation on a tiny stone ball in the midst of endless nothingness. We have been deprived of the very ability to loudly assert our right to exist in the universe. and no one will ever know of our great triumphs or bitter tragedies. This silence no longer seems to us merely a scientific mystery of distant galaxies. It has turned into our own personal existential prison with incredibly strong walls. Humanity will have to rethink all its plans for conquering the stars. Deep space has turned out to be off-limits to our young and ambitious species. Without meaning to, we have become part of this terrifying, lifeless landscape. And now, we must learn to live with the thought of our absolute solitude. Now, the main question is what exactly this filter is. If it is a natural process, then the future of humanity looks incredibly bleak. The laws of macrophysics may work in such a way that interstellar communication is physically impossible over great distances. Perhaps invisible dark matter or cosmic microwave background radiation creates insurmountable interference for the signal. In that case, we are destined to evolve forever within the confines of our small and cramped solar system. A natural barrier forever robs us of our dream of a great galactic community. We will never meet our kind and never learn their amazing history. No cultural exchange or transfer of life-saving technologies will ever take place. Every civilization is born, lives, and dies in its own isolated corner. We will remain the sole spectators in the vast but utterly empty theater of the universe. But if this barrier is of artificial origin, things become much worse. It means that there is a force in space whose capabilities exceed our imagination. Someone has deliberately installed these powerful jammers around every inhabited star system. A force capable of manipulating the very fabric of reality on a galactic scale. And for some unknown reason, this entity hates open interstellar communication. We live by rules established by someone invisible and incredibly powerful. This ancient super-civilization could have turned space into a dark and silent forest. They act as strict, uncompromising guardians, forbidding any loud activity. They perceive any signal as a direct threat to their own dominance. That is why they created an automatic system to suppress any emerging radio waves. Our developing planet has simply fallen under the influence of this global quarantine. We have become tiny creatures under the microscope of a completely indifferent, cold mind. What will happen if we try to outsmart or break through this established system? Humanity is incredibly stubborn, and our engineers will certainly try to create more powerful transmitters. We can build giant lasers powered directly by the sun's energy. We'll try to focus all our power into a single piercing beam of information. We'll try to burn a hole in this invisible wall out of sheer stubbornness. But we have absolutely no idea what consequences such a breach will entail. Perhaps the filter is simply a gentle alarm that triggers at a certain level. As soon as a civilization becomes intelligent enough to overcome the barrier, it attracts attention. And that attention could prove fatal to all life on our planet. The guardians of the universe might simply launch a devastating counterattack against the source of the noise. Perhaps this is precisely why we see none of the ancient and wise races. They tried to break through the wall and were instantly wiped from the face of the universe. This hypothesis forces us to look at our technological development in a completely different light. Every new step in radio astronomy could turn out to be a step toward our own destruction. We are banging loudly on a locked door, not knowing what exactly lies behind it. Instead of friendly neighbors, a ruthless cleansing machine may be lurking there. And perhaps we should pray that this door never opens. Silence may not be a punishment, but the only condition for our safe existence. We find ourselves facing the most difficult moral and scientific choice in our history. Should we continue our attempts to reach out to intelligent life in deep space? Or should we immediately shut down all transmitters and hide in the safety of the darkness? Scientists and politicians are already beginning to argue heatedly about how to proceed. Some people are demanding immediate radio silence to save our fragile species. But no one can offer a 100% guarantee of safety under any scenario. We have always feared that aliens would arrive on Earth in massive warships. We expected the classic invasion depicted in hundreds of science fiction films and books. People were seriously preparing to fight the aliens using familiar tanks and missiles. But the real threat turned out to be much more subtle, vast, and incomprehensible to the human mind. We have encountered the architecture of the universe, which is inherently hostile to our species. And against this enemy, no laser weapon we have invented will help. The longer we study this anomaly, the less it seems like a mere mistake. Space is not a friendly environment awaiting our bold and confident stride. It is a complex mechanism that operates by its own rules, alien to us. And these rules take absolutely no account of the interests of carbon-based life from a small planet. To this universe, we are not even ants. We are merely a statistical anomaly. The reality is that we may never get answers to these questions. Humanity may simply vanish into the depths of time, having understood nothing. We will leave behind only the ruins of cities, which will soon be swallowed up by merciless nature. And not a single signal will escape beyond our orbit to tell of us. This thought is paralyzing and forces us to reevaluate every day we have lived. We thought we could understand the universe through mathematics and common sense. But reality has shown us that our knowledge is infinitesimally small and extremely limited. The more we gaze into the dark sky, the less sense it makes. And we still don't know what lies behind this terrifying and perfect silence.